Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast, where we talk about spiritual topics and how to bring them into our daily life and take away practical lessons from them. I'm here with Achyuta Gopi and our live studio audience tuning in from all over the world, Florida and Brazil and the West Coast and all over. Our tri-host is still missing, Dayal Garanga. He'll be back hopefully by Wednesday. We'll see. We miss him. But it's just me and Achyuta holding down the fort. How are you doing this morning, Achyuta?
I'm good. I feel like my brain just got kickstarted. Just got an idea for a topic. So I'm here. I'm ready.
What's the idea? I want to hear it.
The idea is like, as spiritually minded people, how do you deal with non-devotees? Like, and the more personal the relationship gets, how do you deal with that? And I kind of feel like, it's really important to say the one sentence that everybody seems to forget, which is everybody was a non-devotee at some point.
Yes, we are not Nityasiddhas. We are not eternally perfected beings. So at some point in this life or the last. This is a very good question. I feel like there's so many layers to it, and just to maybe explain to people who are totally new, if you've never heard these terms before, I guess when we say, because I've also been a little bit like, well, what is non-devotee? What is devotee and this and etc. We'll get into that, but I think the easiest way to understand it is perhaps a devotee is someone who is trying to lead a spiritual life and trying to follow certain regulations and trying to surrender to Krishna. I think it's that simple. Keyword trying.
Yeah.
And someone who's a non-devotee is someone who is not trying and doesn't really have faith in their heart and doesn't really have that mentality, whether it's a spiritual mentality or not. And we could talk about that as well. And I think it's really interesting. And I think that even a further definition of a non-devotee is just someone who is looking for shelter in material things. You know, devotees, we're looking for shelter in Krishna, or at least we're trying to look for shelter in Krishna, in community, and other people. Non-devotees are looking for shelter in material things, and they're okay with that. Like, they're totally fine with that. Like, that's what it is. And I think there are like levels of non-devoteeism as well as there are levels of devoteeism. But I think this is such a great question because one of the key principles in our bhakti practice is association. I think William Shakespeare said, like, tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who you are, right? And so the people that we are surrounding ourselves with on a daily basis constantly are going to affect us. So it's really simple. It's like simple math. If I'm around people who are uplifting and positive and have Krishna in their heart and are, on a journey to know about the soul, about God, about these kinds of deeper spiritual things, then that will naturally, like through osmosis, like I'll feel that. If I'm surrounding myself with people that are just like, not that, then I'm gonna feel that as well. And I have a lot more to say, but I kind of want to hear where you're going with this, Achyuta.
Well, I feel like there are also levels to like surrounding oneself, because then I in my mind I hear like different varieties of people, which may or may not truly exist. But in my mind I hear the group of people who are like, but what if I'm in the middle of, I don't know, Wisconsin somewhere. Except for just this past weekend, I just met devotees from Wisconsin, so it can't really be
No
that.
excuses.
Yeah. But what if I'm in some remote, town somewhere in the middle and I don't have a temple near me, I don't have devotees near me? What do you mean, Kishore Chandra, that the people that I'm surrounding myself are the people that I'm going to be most like? Because what if I don't have devotees around me? Everybody has a way. Um, and there is, oh, where the old adage is absolutely true, where there is a will there is a way, and the internet has shown that there is no, if you don't want to be isolated, you don't have to be, and if you do want to be isolated, you can definitely be, but that also depends on your mindset. Not physically being around devotees doesn't have to be the one pitfall that grabs you, shakes you up, and makes everything difficult in your life, because we have gatherings like this all throughout the week, and then on the weekend there are still loads of people doing things online. People have been able to find support groups for all kinds of things. Why not spirituality as well? Definitely happens. Um, what our dear Martha is saying is, what's really difficult is to have people around you who are close relatives and they'll judge your beliefs and the spiritual path that you've chosen to follow. So yeah, I was thinking a lot, like, you know, what happens when people have family members and some of those family members are not on the same spiritually aligned path that you might be on. Because I don't think that necessarily, this devotee versus non-devotee tug of war is not necessarily something that has to be limited to bhakti yoga. I think it can be any spiritual, basically, actually, any life path that you really truly believe in,
Mm,
any life path that you have dedicated yourself to, even if it is down to just being sober.
mm,
How would you protect yourself?
mm,
If you go into a house and you know your relatives drink and you are trying to be sober, you would make precautions.
mhm,
But understanding that this is a choice that you yourself have made, what we do is we go a little easier on family members in other circumstances, right? You don't like barge into the house and start preaching to everybody about the downsides of drinking and what it has done to your life, and how could you people. And if you were all just a little bit more considerate. Radhanath Swami has said several times that when he became a Hare Krishna, he said, I tortured my parents. That I really tortured my parents. I really went for it. And we tend to get a little bit fanatical about our belief systems, whatever they may be. And then it moves from protecting our little island, right?
mm,
Protecting our island that we've built up and built as a shelter for ourselves. It moves from protecting that space into kind of like projecting this space of like, don't you dare come over here with your opposing views, because I can't take not one more opposing view. But is that an us thing or is that a them thing?
mm,
That sounds like maybe we're not as safe and secure in our views.
mm,
And it becomes a situation where now, instead of simply protecting it with respect, we start doing this other thing where we push back. And sometimes, a lot of times, with good reason. We've had situations with those close to us where we have felt like the opposing view means that we have to immediately change what we're doing and follow everybody else. But it doesn't have to be. It can be as simple as, it took me a long time to get sober from this material world thing.
mm,
And I'm just respectfully protecting this kind of new sober lifestyle that I'm doing. I know it might sound different, might feel a little bit different for everybody else, but it can be in some cases as simple as protecting that.
mm, 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 mm. I love this topic. Something that's coming to my mind is, bhakti and a lot of spiritual paths are about a discovery of the self
Hmm.
beyond just like the mind or what society tells us we are or what we've been conditioned into thinking we are. And the mind is really scary sometimes and really tricky because the mind is not us, like we are not the mind. That's very clear. Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. But the mind is a tool, and the action that the mind does is discern, discriminate. Like this is this, this is that, this is good, this is bad, this is hot, this is cold, etc. And so when the mind is uncontrolled, it can quickly, like put people into those boxes. you're a woo woo Hare Krishna and I'm a, woke liberalist, whatever it might be, right? And we see it in society, and it's really scary because, like, when a certain amount of people gather around a certain belief or a certain ism or a certain identity, and it can be weaponized. Actually, it can be really detrimental. And the reason I say that is because when you choose to do something, like stop drinking, or like stop going to the club, or like
Uh,
or like whatever, right? Or stop engaging in this, you'll notice immediately people will have a reaction, right? They're going to be like, why aren't you enjoying? Why aren't you drinking? Why aren't you going to the club? Why aren't you like this? Why aren't you like that? And one of the biggest or most interesting things for me, at least in that process, was like, people are they have their own image of who I am, and they're not. And for me, it became very clear very quickly that if they are so attached to the version of who they think I am, and they're prepared to lose me because of it, then that's on them and not on me. Like,
yeah.
it's very clear for me. I'm like, oh, you're like in a story in your head about who I am. And
Hmm.
so bye, like a Scorpio thing, like, like this. But I know that some people have a lot of a harder time with that. And I really appreciate Martha's question because, with family, it's very, very difficult, with my family. It was difficult. It was difficult, but not super difficult because I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and like my family is like very God fearing and like very religious kind of people. They're not really Jehovah's Witnesses anymore so much. So they're much more like open and stuff like that. So it wasn't like too difficult, but there were some adjustments. And actually, the most difficult part for my family wasn't really like the spirituality thing or like, oh, you're a Hare Krishna. The most difficult part for my family was the fact that I wasn't partaking in their expressions of like, enjoyment, right? I mean, drinking, like drinking
Hmm.
and partying, right? It's like
Hmm.
I would go to the family gatherings and just be like, "La-di-da," like this, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing? Like, why can't you have fun? Like, why can't you be fun anymore?" And so I really, just to tie it back, like I really think this question of identity and who we are is so interesting because for me it was always the conviction, and it has proven true with my family at least. For me, it was always the conviction. It's like, if you really love me and if you really are deep enough to explore a deeper love, right? Then that means you're going to be with me on this journey, or at least support me, or at least stay with me. And if you don't, and you're like in love or getting enjoyment or getting satisfaction from like this version of me that you have in your head, then that means that like we're probably not, we should go our separate ways like this.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like just the same way if we are pushing even our spirituality onto other people like that, it becomes a little less feeling like we are loving our spiritual lives and more like we're trying to validate it through other people. Like, oh my God, I'm a Hare Krishna and this is right, right? Like, oh my God, I'm a Hare Krishna and this is doing great things for my life, right? And the minute we're like, no, but you should do this because it will also do different things for your life, right? It's the same way that people are just like, yeah, no, but I'm having fun drinking, right?
Mm. Hmm.
This is the definition of fun. It has to be because I've been doing this all my life and this is fun, right? And so I feel like we're all kind of socially like testing one another. We're really trying to like fit in because nobody is secure about what they've chosen. And everybody's kind of looking around going, if this all goes south, I'm gonna look at George over there. If George's not having a good time, that's it. I'm going to back away. I'm going to run away quickly. Like, and I think that's what makes it so difficult about relationships. There's less people to judge with, like there's less people to judge how this situation is going when there's only two of you. And everybody's looking at the other person like, okay, if this relationship goes south, I'm going to take cues from the other person and then run for the hills as fast as I can. And when there's only two people, who am I supposed to judge with that? And God forbid I'm just single and alone for a long time. Who am I supposed to judge there if this is not going well? And so when we're looking at identities, so much of our identities for everybody is built on how that other person's experience is going.
Mm, mm,
And we do it in spirituality so much.
mm,
How's that person's spiritual experience going? It's like, well, they look like they made it. How come my life is not looking like Jesus?
mm,
My prayers are not sounding like Jesus.
mm,
All this is not sounding exactly like what's happening. So yeah, I also don't want to oversimplify. Like I understand, Martha's, and also Martha, you are in a very different space of life. Like I feel as though when you've had to actually deal with people for a certain amount of years, you really get to a point where it is less about having to explain
yeah,
and
absolutely.
more just about I've built an island with all of the best things that I love.
Mm,
Now I get to protect that island.
mm,
And so I think at a certain point, it gets so much more difficult when you've been mired in, but, do as your parents say.
mm,
And it takes such a while to leave that platform and understand that, yikes, you get on the other side of like 30 and they will, but the term like, but you're still just a baby doesn't, it's starting to hold less weight,
mm, mm,
especially when you're looking at the world and looking at people who are coming closer to 40 or in their 40s, and they're just you the world is not giving you that leeway to just be like, I'm just a baby, it's fine. And so now you're kind of straddling these two platforms of life where you're not just under somebody else's jurisdiction,
mm,
but you are now trying to have to move out of being under somebody's jurisdiction,
mm,
especially when the people are there telling you, but couldn't you just not? Can't you just be different?
mm,
Okay, fine. Just be different around us because
mm,
that's going to make me feel better. And so I don't want to oversimplify this whole like we can just protect our islands, it's fine. Um and to that I also say protect your island, but you don't always have to be a hero.
mm.
You hear all the things that Prahlad says to his father in Srimad Bhagavatam. You don't have to do that. There are so many times I listen to that story of Prahlad, and his father's really atheistic and really against his spiritual behavior to a certain extent, because his father was also doing yoga and
Yeah.
doing all kinds of spiritually minded things, but to the end that it benefited him. And he was not about Prahlad's spiritual life. He really was not about that life at all. And Prahlad says a lot of things to his father which anger him and really provoke him. And there were so many times I was thinking, but does everybody have to do that?
Mm,
So it doesn't always have to be like you don't have to be a hero. You
mm,
can simply protect your own island. Like there was a time when,
mm.
Pride Month and they have like National Coming Out Day and all. It was like all about everybody just come out, no problem. Just, be your authentic self. And to that end, I also again I'm like, don't be a hero if you're not ready to take that on though.
Yes.
If you have a completely antagonistic situation, circumstance around you, I do not encourage you to put your life in danger. Like that is that live to fight another day, folks. Both in spiritual life, material life, emotional life, identity life, live to fight another day. So sometimes when we get into these circumstances and you are the only one who's trying to go on this spiritual path, and you don't have to come out to your I'm a Hare Krishna and this is it, and we are sitting on the floor and we are living this lifestyle where we only eat off of metal cups and plates. You must wash after hand. I like, I'm gonna be my full fanatic self. Maybe we balance a little.
And I think it's that with so many things and with everything, because I think I like that you mentioned Pride Month and all that stuff. Judge Jagannath and I were just talking about this, and we were talking about like being in the closet and all this stuff and whatever. And there was this like cute little Netflix show that recently came out, and it was like really wholesome. It was like about like two boys in high school, and it's like British, and it was like really wholesome, which was like really nice because usually the narrative of gay people in the media has been like, and they died of AIDS, and they committed suicide, and they had like a terrible ending, and like literally, like I recently watched that Harry Potter movie, Dumbledore, Secrets of Dumbledore, or something like that, and Judge Juggernaut and I were also like, wow, because I don't know if anyone has seen. I'm gonna spoiler alert. Dumbledore, his secret is that he's gay and whatever. Anyway, end
Wow,
sad.
they actually put that out there, huh?
They actually put that out there, but I guess that was like known already. But anyway, like it was in the movie. Ending sad, like his lover threw himself off a cliff. Like, sorry, spoiler alert.
Why? I mean, I do
I
understand
know.
it comes from, like, there is an underlying culture of, so whenever you get like oppressed communities, I do feel like so much of what happens in the media is oppressed communities trying to heal through media. But
Yes.
then it just really seems like I'm like, but I need a different narrative. Like, I need to know that all Black stories are not going to end like Roots. I can't do it. I need help. I need more than that. I need another narrative
And so we were
because
watching
I'm
this like,
mired in the other one.
yeah, and we were watching this like cute little wholesome thing, and we were just like, wow, this is so like sweet and wholesome, and it's just like a cute little love story, and this and etc.
And they
And
didn't die? It's amazing.
no, they didn't die. They didn't die. No one killed each other. I was just like, wow, they just like live happily ever after. What do you know? But I thought it was really sweet. I thought it was really sweet because Joe Juggernaut and I were talking about like just being in the closet and like how, yeah, it's like a lot of people are in the closet because it's safe in there, because like they don't live in a safe situation where they, if they were to come out or etc., like it would mean like their lives would be in danger. And this can be applied to any like oppressed identity or minority, like wherever you are in the world,
Even spiritual life. If
even
you
spiritual.
have not told your family that you are a Hare Krishna or a practicing bhakti yogi, it does not make you any less of a bhakti yogi.
Yeah.
It makes you a safe and smart bhakti yogi, actually.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I think I was going to connect this to spirituality somehow. I think I really liked your point about like not feeling the need or not feeling like I have to like go bash everyone's head over with like my spirituality, because like I might not have the qualification. I mean, I don't have the qualification of Shri Prahlad, right? Like I don't have that qualification of these like perfected beings who can go and like be those champions of spirituality or champions of fill in the blank. It's like it's okay with just being like yourself and chill and like this. And I think it's really interesting because, just to tie it all back, we're getting slowly close to the end of time. I think it's really interesting, and this is like a really deep topic, so I'm gonna try to not open the can of worms so much here.
We'll
But
just
I
go right
really
on
liked
onto your can tomorrow. It's fine.
exactly, we could talk about, I really liked how you spoke, Achuta, about like having role models in society or in the media of like, yeah, I need to know that every Black story doesn't end like Roots, or I need to know that every gay story doesn't end like Brokeback Mountain, where it's just like, and we're sad and we never saw each other and I married a woman. It's like I need to like know that. And it's interesting how much, and this is like tying it back into association and what we're bringing into our like energetic mental space, because so much of bhakti is actually like the, as you progress along bhakti and you get to like the higher processes and the higher realms, a lot of it is about like actually learning about the lives and the attitudes and the behaviors of certain spiritualists, the gopis, etc. I don't want to get too into it because it's very like, "Ooh," I'm reading about this now. But a lot of it is about like really learning about them and really learning about their behaviors and who they are. Because the more I learn about someone, the more I start to become like them. So it's like the more that I see in the media that, oh, my life is going to end in AIDS and sadness, like that's what I'm going to believe. If I see the media and I like, oh wow, my life is going to end in being imprisoned and living in, crappy communities for the rest of my life, like that's what I'm going to believe about myself. And it's like that, I think that that power to change the narrative or change the story, as they say, it's really fascinating. And I think like it really does. Oh, okay, I'll end with this aha moment that I'm having. It really does start with each and every one of us. It really does start with me being able to say, actually, I don't want to associate with these people that are taking me towards that narrative. It's like that narrative of like, oh, having fun equals drinking, or that narrative of, oh, being black means this, or being Hispanic means this, or being gay means this. It's like we have these almost concretized norms of like what it's like to be a certain thing, or even, oh, being a Hare Krishna means this, and it's like, well, maybe I want to go a little bit, I want to look underneath the surface a little bit and see like, what does being a Hare Krishna actually mean? What does being a gay person or a black person, like what does that actually mean?
Yeah, and you get to the idea of like if you have chosen a different route, then you are a sellout. And people, if you decide to go against that narrative, people can be really upset about it.
Yeah.
Again, that's a them thing sometimes because people feel like there is no way for me to get out of this. And so how dare you try and get out of this? And so once again, I also don't want to oversimplify. We do acknowledge that we're speaking from a place of even having the privilege to choose a different mindset. Sometimes there are situations where you can't even think of a different mindset. And what we're saying is that have hope.
Mm,
Not that it's easy, not that it's going to be simple, but have hope. Have hope that there will be a community for you,
mm,
whether spiritually minded, whatever it is, there will be a community for you, and there will be support groups available.
mm,
So I
mm.
feel like, and I think, this is definitely something we'll continue tomorrow
Yeah.
because everybody's dealing with it in some way. But um less of like, it's okay, just go be yourself and you don't really need anybody. But also have hope that there will be companions on the path.
Mm. I love that final message, Chuta. Have hope. Dana wrote in the comments her personal situation. I guess she's going through with her mom, and it's like
Mhm.
that happens with so many of us. Where like someone close to us, a mom, a partner, uh, a close friend will rebel, or they'll have a react, like a very strong reaction towards a certain part of your identity, whether that be being a Hare Krishna or whatever it might be. And then it's easy to go into a negative space after that. It's easy to go into like, well, what am I doing, or who am I actually, and all this stuff. And so I really, really appreciate your message, Achuta, of having hope that like there will be companions along the journey. But we are fresh out of time, so we are gonna ask our dear scribe Kimberly to share some takeaways with us because she's so adept at putting things in nice little takeaway packages.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kishore and Achita. So today I'm taking away to surround myself with people who lift each other up and also trying to be someone who lifts others up too. And then instead of projecting, pushing, and trying to be a hero, I can respectfully protect what is important to me. And then lastly, Achuta's message of having hope that we will find our tribe along the way.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. That's so sweet. Any final words, Achuta, before we sign off?
I feel like that was it. It
I
was in a
think that
nice
was it
little
too.
to-go box.
Have hope.
Yeah.
Hope. So that's also my feeling. Like I'm feeling very hopeful these days, actually. So thank you for tying that up with a nice bow of hope, Achuta. Okie dokie. We will continue this topic tomorrow because apparently everyone loves this topic. Everyone is saying in the chat that they love this topic, and it is a really good topic. And there's so many layers to it, and we could go in so many
Mhm.
directions. So we'll
Yeah.
continue this topic tomorrow. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Martha and Kimberly, Lileshwari, Vidya, Irenka, Rachna, Dana, Anna, Rini. Thank you all so much for tuning in live. Thank you everyone listening to the recording wherever you are. And thank you, Achyuta Gopi. And we will see you all tomorrow. Bye.